I appreciate Michelle Obama highlighting the very narrow difference between one candidate winning a certain state and another. So I'm glad that maybe now we can all get on the same page about how voter fraud, which is real and happens, is important because it could be the difference between one person winning the election and another person losing the election, as evidenced by the cases of voter fraud we've seen and the very narrow vote margin. If you really want to see how close this stuff can be, go back and look at the Senate race with Al Franken and Norm Coleman, where it was down to the hundreds of votes. And there were people finding votes in the trunks of cars, and it was a big mess. But the Democrats, as soon as they sense an opportunity, as soon as they see that blood in the water, they go all out. Whatever they got to do to get it done. Doesn't matter what good faith is abandoned, what laws are broken. As long as they can get away with it, they'll do it. But now the party that has no problem, and I'm sure had nothing to say, think about this. Did you hear anything? I didn't hear, and I didn't watch the whole thing. I didn't hear anything last night about how the Democrats are speaking out to shut down the rioters, the looters. The Democrats are saying, we disavow that. That's not who we are. Knock that crap off. You think they said anything about that? No, of course not. Those are their shock troops. That's the Democrat base. Those are Biden voters, Kamala voters. They're not going to upset them. So they drag people out of cars, beat them almost to death, light businesses on fire, and might as well be all wearing Biden Kamala T-shirts while they do it. Democrats don't have anything to say about that. No, much better to focus on how evil Trump is. This is all just a very standard referendum on whether or not Donald Trump should get 4 more years, based entirely on how many people they can convince to be Trump deranged and to hate Donald Trump, to think that he's been terrible when that's just not true. It's not true. What they said about him in the first 3 years was just laughable, right? They were completely insane. And now to blame all of the COVID crisis on him, you'd have to ignore what states have gone through, where governors were making the decisions. Remember, Trump left it to he's such a tyrant, he's such an autocrat, that he left it to governors like Cuomo, who we'll be talking about more, to run their own response. And now they want to tell us that Trump was not up for this. He doesn't have it. Here's Michelle Obama again, 19.
Donald Trump is the wrong president for our country. He has had more than enough time to prove that he can do the job, but he is clearly in over his head. He cannot meet this moment. He simply cannot be who we need him to be for us. It is what it is.
Why can't he meet this moment? But Joe Biden, who is clearly not up for holding any job, really, let's be honest, not any job with any real responsibility, feeding the ducks in the park, eating his TV dinner, going for a walk with a blanket around his shoulders. He's up for those kinds of jobs. He's not up for being leader of the free world. He's just not. Why does he feel the need to do this? Because his whole life has been about the advancement of Joe Biden while pretending it's about the advancement of the people who vote for him. This is just who he is. This is what he does. Never time. I will say there is a boomer phenomenon that we are all dealing with now because people live much longer. They have, the lifespan has increased dramatically, even just last a couple of generations. There are boomers who just never want to stop working in their role professionally. They don't want to move on to something else. There are other things in life. There is family. There is introspection. There is religion. There is culture. There is leisure. There are all these things. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say, Buck, I'm a boomer. I'm retired. Yeah, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about what I call the Larry King disease. I'm the only guy who can do this. I got to be the one doing it. Larry King was still advocating for himself to take over from Piers Morgan after Piers Morgan took his job. He's like, I want my job back. Hey, New York, you're on line 1, right? I mean, this is crazy. At some point, it's time to think about other things. Biden's at that point. And look, in 7 or 8 years, I'm sure Trump would be too. Right? It's just, this is the natural life cycle. The same way that you can be too young to run for president, you can be too old and too infirm to run for president. And Biden is there. And they all know it, and they're lying to you. They don't care. They were willing to say it a year ago when they were sure that Cory Booker or Kamala Harris or Elizabeth Warren or Elizabeth Warren. How old is Elizabeth? She's got a lot of spunk. She's ready to go. Oh, she's feisty. I'm going to get me a beer. You look at some of the younger Castro, Beto O'Rourke. You look at some of the other people that were being held up by the media as the next great thing for the Democrat Party, and they all kind of thought, the media thought, and of course they don't know anything. They also thought that Trump was a joke. They thought that somebody else would win, and so they were willing to say out loud what was so apparent to all of us, which is that Biden gets confused and is simply too old for this. But in that sense, he's also perfect for the Democrats because not only will he just pass the torch to Kamala, so you'll get somebody that the Democrat apparatus with Kamala wants in power, but who the American people would not actually vote for. And I'm talking about Democrats. They'll get that, and all because they were able to fool people into thinking that Joe Biden is someone who is going to lead us into a better, brighter future. This is utter nonsense. I don't know how any person who takes himself or herself seriously can say it with a straight face, but they're doing it, and they're going to keep doing it. This claim that Biden is such a moral man, again, based on what? I mean, his son, I guess we're not going to talk about Hunter Biden anymore. Hunter Biden is out there doing all kinds of shady stuff, personally and professionally. And Joe Biden, look, I know family dynamics can be complicated. I'm not blaming Joe Biden for the fact that his son is a derelict. But Joe Biden also enabled some of that behavior professionally for an adult, right? It's not like dealing with a wayward teenage son who, I haven't done that yet, but I hear that can be a real handful. Joe Biden allowed all of that. Joe Biden has a history of lying. Joe Biden, and I know this, but Trump lies. This is what they always, anytime you speak to a Trump hater about anything and they're caught, they always just go back to Trump lies. And you're like, we're going to do this again. Trump lies, and he said there were good people on both sides. And the great irony, of course, is that they're lying when they say that because that's not what he said. But that's made a comeback. Joe Biden is an obvious and intense mediocrity. Always has been. Guy's not a winner. As evidenced by the fact that when he tried for the big job, he was kind of a laughing stock. And he's tried several times in the past. It was like a joke. So now the guy who was a joke in the past when he ran as president, we're told, is the answer to our prayers because the Democrats don't have anything better on the cupboard or off the shelf. That's what we're being told. Well, I guess they might as well have some more musical numbers at the DNC to convince us of all of this. I suppose they It's outrageous, friends. It's just outrageous. But get ready for 2 more nights of it. I am so dedicated, so devoted to this show that I think I'm going to watch the DNC tonight just so I can pick it all apart. But I also will tell you that none of you should waste your time. I'll do it for you. Because no one's even going to remember in a week. There's not going to be any bounce coming out of this. There's not going to the absence. There's a reason why pageantry and theatrics in politics are what they are. Because the visuals, the sounds, the feeling of these things matters. Obviously. Otherwise, we would have been doing, just a taped speech and here you go. We've been doing these virtual conventions stretching back for a long time. And the lack of all those things, it's impossible to manufacture excitement when it looks like I'm being told that we're, raising money to save the double-crested cormorant for being put on the, endangered species list or something. They're not endangered, but you know what I mean. We're trying to save the spotted owl. Send money, your gift of $5 a month for the spotted owl. And they got the phone bank behind them. That was what the DNC Night 1 looked like. They even had some of those production value issues where they're, hey, Bernie, you're on. You could hear them. And he's like, oh, here I am on TV, going to talk to you. It was like something. It was also amateurish. I will say, though, I kind of like that from an analyst perspective Because so many of these people that you see out there, the stagecraft around them, you're always seeing them on cable news. You're seeing them on a literally elevated platform of a stage. You're seeing them under certain lighting. You're seeing them, and even when they're doing the, here I am, just another guy shaking hands, eating pot pie, the whole thing. I don't know why everybody's Bernie all of a sudden. I just miss doing the Bernie voice. Yeah, I'm like at an event. I'm like, I have a super rich wife, and I'm kind of like a house dad who thinks he should be president, but, Beto out there doing all the stuff that he does. You have all that going on. Now when you see some of these Democrat candidates without that glitz and glamour around them, you go, this person? This is who I'm supposed to think is so. This is the person whose judgment is so fantastic. Remember, our politics is now, it's just a celebrity competition, really. And yes, we do have a guy who ran the Celebrity Apprentice as our current president, because that's really what this is. It is a celebrity popularity contest. The politicians are just a different kind of celebrity. That's why name recognition is so powerful. That's why they're going with Joe Biden, because Biden, everybody knows the guy has universal name recognition. He can't recognize squat these days, but people know who he is. The whole thing is such a cynical sham. The whole Democrat movement right now, and the pitch and the explanation, it's tough. For me, I go between feeling like it's just absurd and hilarious to feeling like a little bit of terror from, if these people get in power again, how else are they going to make my life more difficult? How else are they going to make people miserable? I do worry about that. Do these Democrat luminaries have good judgment? This wasn't from the actual DNC, but it was shared during it by none other than Mr. James Woods, who I mentioned earlier on in the show. And here is Michelle Obama showing you what kind of judgment she has. Play 5.
I want to start by thanking Harvey Weinstein for organizing this amazing day. This is possible because of Harvey. He is a wonderful human being, a good friend, and just a powerhouse. And the fact that he and his team took the time to make this happen for all of you should say something, not about me or about this place, but about you. All right, everybody, we are here because of you.
Yep. Harvey Weinstein, wonderful person, great friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, you're amazing. And make sure you give one of the Obama daughters an internship, which he did do. So, look, I understand. Maybe she didn't know that the guy that she said was a close friend and a wonderful person was a rapist. But did she really not know that he was a disgusting and horrible human being based on the way that he interacted with pretty much everybody he dealt with professionally always? Had no idea, huh? Now, I'm not saying that she's in any way blameworthy. I'm just saying, does Michelle Obama have good judgment? She didn't have good judgment about Harvey Weinstein, that's for sure. And I wanted to get to this because I think it's important we remember who the Democrats put forward and that they are held to account. We haven't heard much from Governor Christie in a while. Well, he weighed in on Christie. And here's what he weighed in on John Kasich, and here's what he had to say. Play 10.
Christie, 4 years ago, Meg Whitman, Christie Todd Whitman both endorsed Hillary Clinton. So how big a threat are these Republican endorsements tonight?
Zero. I mean, they're meaningless. They weren't with her. They were with her 4 years ago. Now they're with Biden. No surprise. And John Kasich, just to show you where John Kasich's standing is in the Republican Party, when he was the only Republican governor left on the stage in 2016, Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, and John Kasich, the three candidates left. Do you know how many Republican governors of his colleagues, his sitting colleagues at the time, endorsed John Kasich? Zero. And the reason they didn't endorse him is because he's a backstabber and he's an untruthful guy. And so tonight, Republicans are going to look at that and go, you can have him. Please believe me. Give us a break. Get him out of our party. You take him for a little while. Because on top of all that, I've worked with John a lot. He's exhausting. Joe Biden's going to be getting calls from John Kasich. He's going to want to change his phone number.
Christie does still throw a good punch. You got to give the guy credit. Or maybe he's best when he jumps off the top turnbuckle. Whatever. He knows how to take somebody out. He knows how to take somebody out. So I think we should at least get a chance to hear about these Republicans that were turning, because that was a big part of it. Oh, even the Republicans. The Republican base is with Trump, 97, 99 to 1 or something like that. I mean, the Republican Party is firmly united behind Donald Trump because he delivered on a lot of major promises. And more than that, your choices are the insane socialists who think that gender isn't real, who want to make all kinds of demands about race and affirmative action and not let you even talk about it. You just obey. They want to spend the country into oblivion. They want modern monetary theory. They want open borders and amnesty and an increased welfare state. Laws to be applied based upon social justice categories, not upon our common humanity and the need for all people to be held accountable for what they do. That's what the Democrats stand for. Does that get anybody excited? Does that feel like that's Republican to anybody? I would want to know. I'd want an answer to that question, but we're not going to get an answer to that question because people are ultimately very selfish. Oh, and here's Bernie's great burn. The great burn of Trump from the burn. Play 20.
As long as I am here, I will work with progressives, with moderates, and yes, with conservatives to preserve this nation from a threat that so many of our heroes fought and died to defeat. This president is not just a threat to our democracy, but by rejecting science, he has put our lives and health in jeopardy. Trump has attacked doctors and scientists trying to protect us from the pandemic, while refusing to take strong action to produce the masks, gowns, and gloves our healthcare workers desperately need. Nero fiddled while Rome burned. Trump golfs.
Oh, there it is. Nero fiddled while Trump. Well, Rome burned. Trump golfs. Come on. I can't believe as many Democrats as did supported this guy. Talk about a clown. I can't believe we're losing our house that we didn't even sell. That's what Deborah said when she realized that she was the victim of home title theft, which is a crime that could actually cost you your home. Here's how it works. Your information's online. The bad guys, cyber criminals, they find that information and then they use it to forge your signature stating that you sold your home to them. You often won't even find out about this until the eviction notice from your home arrives. That's what Deborah found out. You don't want to wait until that point, that's for sure. Take action now. Protect yourself with Home Title Lock. Home Title Lock creates a virtual barrier around your home's title online. It's very straightforward. Just go to HomeTitleLock.com and enter promo code BUCK for 30 free days of protection. You can also check at HomeTitleLock.com and find out if you're already a victim of this crime and don't even know it. Go to HomeTitleLock.com, promo code BUCK. Again, HomeTitleLock.com, promo code BUCK.
Like Biden, he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't come out because he can't. He doesn't take any questions from reporters. I keep saying to my people, here I am getting bombs thrown at me every day by people that are totally, frankly dishonest reporters. but I'm getting, they're espousing the view of the radical left. But here I am, bombs every day, and do a good job in handling it. That's why my polls have gone up 10 or 12 points. I don't believe they were ever there, by the way. I think they're phony polls. I think they're suppression polls. These suppression polls are supposed to suppress your enthusiasm, but they make our people angrier. But this guy doesn't come out of his basement. And he hasn't taken one question. Somebody said yesterday, I don't know if this is so, but he hasn't answered one question in months.
And the media let him get away with that. Instead of every day saying, wow, it seems really weird. In an environment where the only way to have your message reach voters is the virtual, is to do interviews on TV, on the web, whatever. That's the only way. You're not going out. You're not kissing the babies and shaking hands and traveling all over the country, right? You're not doing that. Biden's not answering any questions. Prepared statements. Very controlled environments. This guy's been in politics for over 40 years, folks. And they're babying him. They're babying him. It couldn't be any more obvious. You can see it. But this is where you have to remember there is a gaslighting that is going on here that they will never deviate from. I will give the Democrats credit for one thing. One area in which the Democrat Party really does excel is they can get their team, they can get their side to believe anything and forget anything. Has there been any sense from Democrats, as an example, that they're embarrassed about what happened with Russia collusion? They lied about this for years, okay? They were telling us stuff for 3 years that turned out to be almost entirely, it was a fabrication and couldn't have been more obvious that what was going on was, in fact, a political hit. Right, that's what they were doing. I mean, so by way of review, there's no accountability for this at all, because even the most crazy conspiracy theory involving President Donald Trump will get traction among Democrats. Even the most so-called sophisticated political minds will fall prey to the outlandish anti-Trump fairy tales that are told. Right, first came Russia collusion. For 3 years of the Trump presidency, the news media ran wild with their theories of international scheming and traitorous undermining of American democracy. The scheme had its foundation in the report from, remember, Christopher Steele, sloppy British ex-spy. This guy dressed up gossip as intel reporting, duped an all-too-willing cabal at the FBI with lurid tales of golden showers and prostitutes in Moscow, among other outrageous charges that even Sancticomey himself was willing to believe and go forward with. And Clapper and Brennan. These people are idiots. They're not smart. That's the first thing you have to know about many of the people in politics that you are told that you have to listen to is that the claim in the media is that they're so smart. They're not smart. You can't be that intelligent and have such bad judgment. You can't be that intelligent and be so easily fooled. Just going to say it. This is one of the reasons Democrats are so insecure in their ideology, because they one of the attractions of being a Democrat is that you get to think you're really smart, because that's what the smart people are. Never mind that it's stupid to believe that picking one of two major parties in a country of 320 million people says anything about your intelligence level as an individual. But Democrats believe that it makes them smart. Republicans support it because they like the party. They don't think it means they have faster firing synapses. Well, let's go back to this Christopher Steele situation, okay? So you got this spy, ex-spy, which, I mean, I'm an ex-spy. This is, come on. This guy was a government bureaucrat who peddles this nonsense, and it was so silly that even a thriller writer would have passed on it as a plot for a novel. CNN and the national media, though, no such reservations. The Russia collusion lie led to countless hours of media coverage, a years-long special counsel investigation, and now we know beyond any reasonable doubt the Russia collusion scheme was a fairy tale. The Mueller probe confirmed it. The Durham investigation already racked up its first prosecution of a former FBI lawyer who was part of the fabrication. Nonetheless, the political maneuvering of the Russia collusion catastrophe served its purpose for a time. As I always tell you, my friends, you know what I'm going to say. The process was the punishment. Although they wanted more punishment than that, too. Trump's administration spent enormous energy and resources defending itself from the fabrication of Hillary Clinton's Democratic Party and the handful of deep state plotters who were inside the federal bureaucracy. The idea of collusion also gave the Democrat base a comforting story to tell that absolved Hillary of losing, and it redirected its constituents' anger. The Democrat faithful, Russia collusion meant that Trump cheated, so he isn't really the president. Now the Democrats are running the same playbook for the 2020 election with this post office nonsense. The post office conspiracy team is becoming the Democrats' new narrative, their secret weapon, if you will, to fire up the base and undermine any Trump victory before a single vote is cast. We talked about this yesterday, right? The new theory is that Donald Trump's trying to defund or even eliminate the United States Postal Service in order to stop vote-by-mail operations across the country. The evidence for this ranges from the dishonest to the absurd. Remember photos appearing across social media over the weekend showing post office employees removing mailboxes from the street and also photos of locked mailboxes? Turned out all that was nothing. Nothing nefarious or even unusual. Post offices often adjust drop box location. Didn't matter. Story was too good for Trump to pass up. People already want to believe that the president is going to cheat in an election that hasn't happened yet. They are sure that he must cheat this time because they're sure that he cheated last time. Even though the evidence should tell them that that was all a lie, doesn't matter. They believe what they want to believe. Democrat leadership like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer going full throttle with these allegations against Trump that he's undermining the post office as a voter suppression scheme because he's not going to agree to what? The $25 billion bailout check they want? Pop music star Taylor Swift, as we talked about, weighed in on this, saying on Twitter that Trump's calculated dismantling of USPS proves one thing clearly. He is well aware, all caps, that we do not want him as our president. Maybe you don't, T. Swift. I will never buy another T. Swift album again. Look, these allegations against Trump are nuts. The Postal Service doesn't answer to Trump. It's funded till 2021. There's no danger that Trump can pull all the money from the post office, and he's not even threatening to do so. In reality, a place where Democrats are uncomfortable and refuse to live, in reality, Democrats have decided they want universal mail-in ballots for this election without anything near the logistical planning or funding surge necessary to prepare for that in something even approaching a reasonable fashion. It's also a massive invitation for voter fraud, which is likely to be in what's going to be a very tight election. And that's why when Michelle Obama says that it was just a couple of votes in some precincts that determined the winner, exactly. Voter fraud is real, and we should be fighting against it without Democrats fighting against our efforts to make the election legitimate. Beyond that, the USPS, as we've discussed, is a poorly run entity. It's losing billions a year, right? $78 billion since 2007 lost. Trump is advocating for changes to it, that it be pared down and streamlined. That's just common sense. But common sense is not only in short supply when it comes to Democrat policies. They are allergic to it. They don't like it. Instead of acknowledging the real problems the USPS has, Democrats have seized the moment for maximum political advantage. They're claiming Trump's refusal to cave to their every demand is tantamount to another Russia collusion election theft. The 2020 election just weeks away. We can all see what's at play here. This post office conspiracy not only fires up the Democrat base, it also gives them that ready excuse just in case Trump wins. He stole it, will be the rallying cry of the resistance. And guess what? We will all be worse off because of this lie. But lies are what they are going to tell. Lies are what we should expect. More of them than we've ever seen before. Oh, and also, AOC has an idea for how to fix the post office. Get ready for it. You might want to save your brain. You might want to cover your ears so your brain doesn't turn into mush the moment you hear this. So you don't AOC-ify your brain when you hear her idea. Play clip 6.
Hello, everyone. I have been thinking about ways to help you help the post office. And I think I've got an idea, and I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. So one of the best ways to support the post office is to buy stamps. What do you all think? Would you guys be down and excited if I set up a national progressive pen pal program? Do all the work of connecting you to somebody else. We would offer maybe some conversation prompts or postcard prompts, and even like a printable postcard format. You just send it out. Would you guys be down? Do you like that idea?
No, I don't like that idea, but let's talk about this for a second because it's hilarious. A national progressive pen pal program. It sounds like something that the commissars would have come up with or that you would have pulled out of the pages of the Communist Manifesto. But let's think about this. First off, buying stamps is not going to save the post office. Because let's say I buy, I don't know what it would be, a $7 book of stamps today or a $10 book of stamps today. I hold on to that. I'm not using those stamps. And as I use them, I already have my postage for them. So whether I buy stamps today or buy stamps in a few months, what difference does it make? Hillary could ask, right? What difference? The answer is it doesn't make any difference. Unless you want to start increasing the output of mail that you are sending. Okay, and I guess that's why she's saying we're going to start a progressive pen pal program. Is she really thinking anyone's going to sign up for this? Just going to send, I don't know, libs are crazy. Maybe this would work. Maybe this would work for some of them. But you're just going to start sending random postcards to people you've never met before in an era when people have instantaneous, not just text communication, but video and all these different social media platforms. You can talk to people all the time, all over the world, as much as you want. You're going to start sitting down and telling people, do we even teach cursive writing in public schools anymore? I've heard that they're scaling way back on that. You're going to have people write out in old school block letters, little postcards to each other. I know what the postcard's going to say, too. We're, so scared of what's going to happen because of Donald Trump. And, AOC is, our savior. And I'm so upset because Trump is, worse than Hitler. ... Love and kisses. Your progressive pen pal. I don't think that this is going to save the post office. I think that the $78 billion in the red that they've run up in the last 10 years is probably not going to be dealt with by AOC getting some people to start writing postcard to their progressive pen pal of this side of the country. You want to know where you can find progressive pen pals? Turn on MSNBC. Okay, that's where all your progressive pen pals are. Oh, gosh, it's so crazy, isn't it? It's so absurd, but it's how they do things. It's what they say. Got to bring it to you. Oh, I almost forgot. Who else of the parade of horribles that we've had to go through with this DNC, who has been left out of our discussion today? And he's someone who I need to spend more time listening to so I can do a really good and very deeply mocking impersonation of. It would be, my Al Gore sounds like Eeyore, and that's not right. I can't do a good Al Gore impersonation, but Al Gore did appear at the DNC or has at least spoken. Producer Mark, was this at the DNC or is he just talking yesterday? It must be at the DNC. Or is he just saying this?
Al Gore? No, he was just on CNN.
Oh, he's just on CNN. All right, well then I didn't leave. I thought I left because I looked at the speakers lineup. I don't remember seeing him. I thought maybe he was, maybe he was part of the pregame or whatever. Okay, so he's on CNN. And he wants some attention because no one pays attention to Al Gore anymore. Remember when he told us that the state of Florida was going to be underwater by now? Oops. Didn't end up happening. In fact, producer Mark wants to move there. So It's clearly not underwater, not yet. Here's Al Gore, though, doing his level best, doing everything that he can to get some attention for himself, including on shows like this one, I suppose, by saying something really grotesque and reckless. Play 18.
I think he's kind of panicked that the announcement of Kamala Harris went off. It was a 10 out of 10. It was amazing. And he went to that stupid, ridiculous false birther thing right away and then had to take it back. And on the Postal Service, this is an act of desperation. And Americans understand, Anderson, that during a pandemic, there are lots of older voters and voters of all ages with a pre-existing condition who worry that they can't breathe safely standing in line to vote. So in effect, by tampering with the Postal Service, he is in effect putting his knee on the neck of American democracy and trying to make it impossible for people to vote by mail.
He is putting his knee on the neck of American democracy. I mean, come on, man. Really? We're talking about the Postal Service thing, and then he's switches to a George Floyd reference to just really get that CNN audience all fired up. That's the fascinating thing. I would love to have a sit down conversation with a focus group, audience focus group from CNN, and just ask them all, do you realize the people you're watching are a bunch of vain morons and that you're not getting smarter by watching this? You're actually getting dumber. Do you realize that? I swear. I don't know. CNN somehow endures despite the fact that it is such a trash heap. It's such an embarrassment. But Al Gore knows that audience. He knows what he has to say in order to get in the news cycle for another day. But I guess he's upset because he's not invited to the DNC. Yep, he's not invited because he's the worst.